and welcome to the Paletteful Packs YouTube channel. My name is Alice and today I have the July 2023 Paletteful Premier Pack here in front of me. So let's go ahead, open it up and see what's inside. Oh, blue! Oh, look at the sticker! So the first thing I'm seeing here is this super cute floral sticker with some painting supplies in it. I love this. July is my birthday month, so I love this sticker for my birthday month. Oh my gosh, there's so many cute little mini canvases in here. I believe this is a mini painting set. Let's pull out all the canvases first because there's quite a few of them in here. Look at this. This is all of our mini canvases. So we have two little square black mini canvases. Then we have two little square white mini canvases, two little rectangular white mini canvases, and then one more slightly larger square mini canvas. To go along with that, we also have this super cute mini easel that we can put our little paintings on. This is so cute. All right, let's get to the rest of these art supplies. So I see some really cool looking paints in here. Dye and Flow, the Exciter Pack. It comes with sun yellow, golden yellow, bright orange, scarlet, magenta, violet, periwinkle, turquoise, and chartreuse. And these are free-flowing concentrated liquid colors for use on any untreated fabric, and then you can set them by ironing. Oh, this is cool. So you can use it on fabric. So this will work well on all these canvases and stuff like that. That's really interesting. I'm excited to try these. And then it looks like we have some brushes along with that. These are the two brushes you're going to get. They are both by Robert Simmons Sapphire. You're going to have a 2/0 little detail brush and a size 4 kind of shader brush. Finally in here, I see a little Posca pen. This is a black Posca pen in a 0.7 millimeter. So this will be great for adding definition and lines to the pieces that we make. Okay, so this is everything you're going to get in the July 2023 Paletteful Premier Packs. We have this big set of Dye and Flow paint that acts like a dye. We also have these two Robert Simmons Sapphire brushes, the Posca pen, the super cute little mini easel, and then a whole slew of mini canvases to play around with. So let's go ahead and dive right into the art. Okay, so I'm gonna start on this really small little white canvas because I figured it would be easier to start with the white than the black. And I went ahead and I got the entire canvas wet with water because I wanted to do a wet on wet technique. So I just dropped the dyes in. I'm starting with the two different blues, the tealy blue and more of the royal blue. And then I'm using the flat shader brush to brush around the colors and blend them in with each other. And just to create this like background effect so that I can then build up the painting on top of that. And I go ahead and kind of paint the sides a little bit so those get some color on them, and then I splattered some water in to kind of create a little bit of texture. Once that was dry, I went in with a little bit of a mixture of the royal blue and a little bit of the teal blue, and I started putting in a little bit of shading. I want to create a water scene here, so I'm going to paint the ocean. So I'm starting with large, broad brush strokes to establish some areas of dark and some areas of light. Then I'm going to take this warm yellow and I'm going to mix it in to create this really pretty olive green color. Right now there's a lot of this and it's a little bit too much for the ocean, but it is going to add this really nice undertone when we go in and add more blues, which is what I'm doing now. I'm adding in this tealy blue and blending it into that yellow and to the other blue, and then I'm also lifting off a little bit of that color with a paper towel just to lighten it up a little bit. Once that's dry, it's time to go in with the final little details. So I'm using the tiny little detail brush and a mixture of that dark blue with a little bit of the teal blue to start putting in little tips of waves. So right now this is more of a dark blue, less of a teal blue. So I'm starting with that and putting in all of these little kind of strokes left to right that are kind of up and down, little wavy strokes. And then I'm going in and I'm using the teal color right underneath those strokes to blend them in and to add in a couple little bit more details so that things look really like different colors and different textures, because when you look at the ocean, there's not just like one color, not one shade of blue, there's multiple different shades of blue. So make sure that you're varying your shades of blue when you're going in and adding in all these little details and blending things out. And once I was happy with how the ocean looked, I wanted to add in a little bit of foreground. So I used the Posca pen to draw in this rock over in the front right, and I filled that in, which took a little bit because it was a thin nib. So I went ahead and used my brush to brush around the rest of that paint. This is a really good technique if you have a thinner nib and you're wanting to fill in a larger area of color, you can just kind of start scribbling it on there and then use the brush to blend it out. So that's what I did to fill in that rock. It also gave it a little bit of texture and shading. And I'm doing the same thing to add a little bit of a smaller rock to the left side of the painting. And again, just painting the edges of the painting. I only did that on this painting, but you know, every now and then I try to be professional and paint the edges of my painting. I also added in some little rocks far in the background and some little birds in the sky just kind of flying about. And that was my painting. I think this one came out super, super cute, and it was really fun to try those wet on wet techniques. Moving on, I wanted to try the black, and I knew I was going to have to use the paints pretty heavily on this because they are quite translucent because they're dyes. So you really need to build up a lot on the black if you want to use the black with these. So what I did was I basically put the inks directly onto the paper canvas and smudged it out with my brush, and then I just let it sit there and dry for ages. I put so much ink on top, so really, really put a lot of this dye on top of that black canvas and let it dry. So once it dried, it had kind of sunk down to the corner, all of that bright color, leaving the top left darker. I really liked this look. I thought it looked kind of like the glow, fading glow of a sunset as night kind of set in. So I decided to go with that vibe and create a shadowy scene. So I started adding more blue to that black area to make it a little bit more sky-like and to blend it in a little bit further with some of that orange red tone in the corner. I didn't have to do a whole lot because it was already pretty blended, but I went in and I turned that black area into basically a little hill, and I added in some little trees with the Posca pen, just adding in little branches and little fine shapes to create a little silhouette. I also added in just a little bit of grass shapes on this little hill, and that was pretty much it with this one. This one was really small and cute and didn't take a lot of time, but I actually quite like how it came out. For the last one, I'm going to be working on the largest canvas. And what I do to prep this canvas is I do spray the back of it with a little bit of water. That's going to tighten and stretch the canvas a little bit more so that you can work on it a little bit easier. And then I sprayed the entire front of the canvas with water and started dropping in a bunch of different of the dyes. I used both different yellows, the green and also a blue, and sprayed that so that it got really nice and soft. I let that dry, put on a little bit more wet on wet, kind of getting out some leaf shapes to create some texture, and then I went in with the Posca pen. So confession, between the previous paintings and this painting, I accidentally destroyed my Posca pen using it for something else. And so at this point, I had to switch to a different black Posca pen with a similar nib, but not quite the same. So do forgive me for that. But I used the black Posca pen to draw all of these leaves out on top of this background that I had created. And then I started filling in the very darkest areas of the leaves with black, just kind of creating that first initial contrast and establishing which leaves are leaves and which is just kind of the background and the black darkness. And I'm going to be building this up layer by layer to create this really pretty deep layered leaf effect. So I start with the Posca and get all that in. And once that's dry, I go in with a layer of, I mixed a little bit of the teal and a little bit of the warm yellow to create this dark green color. And I start laying that on the leaves, but I'm going to exclude the leaves on the very top layer. So the leaves that don't have anything layered on top of them. Then I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to add in a little bit more of the dark blue, and I'm going to do that exact same thing again, just leaving the next layer of leaves that will be visible. I'm not going to paint over those, I'm just painting around them. So slowly I'm adding in shadows and painting back the different leaves with a darker layer of dye over and over and over. These kind of work in a similar way to watercolors, but they're more permanent, so they don't really lift the way watercolors do. So you can really layer in a way to create really, really dark darks. And so this technique works really well where you're just kind of layering. You start with the lightest color and then you start layering in the darks over and over. I definitely recommend it. I think it came out really nice. I'm also using the detail brush to add in a little bit of detail and added in a little bit of splatter. I sprayed the whole thing and and then also added some water and some blue, some yellow and some blue on top, and smooshed that around just to kind of create a glaze on top of color. And once that was done, I went back over with the Posca pen to darken the darkest areas again because they had gotten a little bit light with putting all of that dye on top. So I was able to build up with the Posca back on top, adding in those darker shadows and kind of dragging some of that paint underneath the leaves as well to create more shadows underneath the leaves to create that dimension. So you can kind of start with a darker area and then drag the paint with your brush and use it in a thinner way. So definitely recommend experimenting with using the Posca and the brush together. You can get some really cool effects and really create more contrast and add more of those darks into your piece. So doing this also kind of made the lines a little bit cleaner and brought them back out a little bit more. I went back in and added in even more shading just so that you can see that all of these leaves are laying on top of one another. And then I went in with the detail brush and really started to add in lots of little veins to all of the different leaves. And I'm just using a very dark green for this. And I'm being pretty loose. I'm not worrying too much about keeping everything perfect because for my next step, I'm going to actually throw a little bit of varnish on that I already had. And this is because the inks dry to be kind of glossy and the Posca dries kind of matte. So this makes it all the same finish. It makes it all nice and shiny and brings out all of those colors and darks. Once that was dry, I went back in and added in a little bit more detail with a detail brush, just bringing back out some things that had smudged away. And that's pretty much how I finished this piece. I'm really happy with how this one came out and the depth and the layering that was created in this piece. And I really hope that this helped give you some ideas and different techniques and ways to use these really unique supplies that we got in the box this month. Thank you so much for watching. And if you would like to subscribe to Paletteful Packs, then you can click the link in the description box below. Have a great rest of your day.